My sister never understood how much our mother meant to me until the moment I walked into her study and found her sitting behind Mom's desk, the velvet-bound will clutched in her hands like a secret trophy. The room was exactly as I remembered. It oak bookshelves lining the walls, the afternoon light filtering through stained glass windows, casting a warm, dusty glow across the Persian rug. But the air felt heavy, almost oppressive. It was the same house I'd grown up in, yet nothing felt the same anymore. I'd driven through the winding country roads that morning, my heart pounding like a drum behind my ribs. 2 days earlier, Mom had passed away peacefully in her sleep. There had been no warning, no long illness, no chance for goodbyes. One moment she was laughing over tea and scones, telling me about her garden, and the next, she was gone. The funeral had been a blur of black suits, polite condolences, and the heavy scent of lilies. But today was different. Today was when Mom's final wishes would be revealed. I rang the bell of the old manor house and the door opened before I even had a chance to lift my hand. My sister Vanessa stood there in a tailored black suit that looked far too expensive for a Midwestern funeral. Her dark hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her eyes, once warm and sisterly, were cool, almost calculating. "Emma," she said, her voice smooth. Not a trace of the tears she'd shed at the service 2 days ago. "I wasn't expecting you until tomorrow." I stepped inside, the door closing with a muffled thud behind me. "I thought you said today was the reading." Vanessa smiled, the corners of her mouth barely twitching. "Mom wanted it to be just family. No surprises." I followed her down the long hallway, past framed photographs of birthdays, vacations, and holidays we'd spent together. My gaze lingered on one in particular, Mom, grinning in a straw hat, with both of us hugging her on either side. Vanessa and I looked so happy, so innocent. I swallowed hard. We arrived at the study door. Vanessa's hand hovered over the doorknob as if savoring each second. "Come in." Her tone was almost pleased. I pushed the door open and stepped into that dimly lit room. The desk lamp was on, illuminating the leather-bound will that lay open in the center of the desk. Behind it, Vanessa sat, one hand resting on the papers like a claim stake. "Go ahead," she said, gesturing with a tilt of her head. "Read it." I crossed to the desk. My fingers trembled as I reached out, but Vanessa's voice stopped me. "Not yet," she said softly. There was something cold in her eyes now, a hardness I'd never seen in my sister. "I should tell you first." I looked at her, confusion blooming in my chest. "Tell me what?" She leaned forward, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Mom changed her will before she died." She let the words hang there, heavy as a stone. "She took you off it." My heart skipped a beat. "What are you talking about?" Vanessa's eyes glinted. "You never came home anymore. You moved to the city, chasing some dream. You barely spoke to Mom in months. She decided she didn't want to leave anything to someone who abandoned her." I felt heat rise to my cheeks. Abandoned her? I'd called every week. I'd promised I'd come home more often. But I couldn't fight tears or fear. "Let me see it," I whispered. Vanessa shook her head, a small, sad smile curling her lips. "You'll get your copy soon. But for now, just know that everything goes to me." She tapped the will. "All the properties, all the savings. I'm the sole beneficiary." Anger and disbelief surged through me. "That's impossible. Mom would never do that." Vanessa shrugged, her expression serene. "She did, and there's nothing you can do about it. The lawyers will call you tomorrow with details." My pulse thundered in my ears. The room felt like it was closing in. I backed away from the desk, hands curled into fists. "You've got to be kidding me." Vanessa stood smooth as marble. "I'm not. And Emma—" Her voice softened, but her eyes remained sharp. "Maybe if you'd been here more often, she wouldn't have felt so alone." I swallowed past the lump in my throat. Vanessa was enjoying this. I could see it in the way she held herself, the cold precision of her words. But I refused to let her gloat. "Fine," I said, my voice steady. I'll see the will tomorrow. Then we'll see if this change holds up. She arched an eyebrow. We will. Then she turned and walked out, leaving me alone in that study, with the will that wasn't mine anymore. That night, I lay awake in the guest room Mom had decorated for me. The wallpaper was pale yellow with tiny daisies, Mom's favorite. But I couldn't sleep. My mind raced. How could Vanessa do this? How could Mom write her out like that? I pulled out my phone and texted my best friend, Sarah. 2 days. Mom's. Will says everything goes to Vanessa. I can't believe it. No chance that's legit, right? Sarah called immediately. Emma, are you okay? She asked, worry in her voice. I hugged a pillow to my chest. I don't know. Vanessa said Mom took me off the will. Everything to her. Sarah was silent for a moment. Then she said, That doesn't sound right. Maybe it's a draft or a joke? You need to see the paperwork. I will, I said, though my heart sank. But what if it's real? What if Mom really did this? Sarah's voice was fierce. You are not giving up. Without a fight. Your mom loved you. Something's off. I'll help you look into this. I smiled weakly. Thanks, Sarah. I don't know what I'd do without you. The next morning, I forced myself downstairs to join Vanessa and Mom's lawyer, a gray-haired man named Mr. Caldwell. Vanessa sat at the head of the dining table, drumming her perfectly. Manicured nails, hair flawless, makeup untouched. I felt shabby in my worn jeans and an old sweater Mom had knitted, but I kept my head high. Mr. Caldwell cleared his throat. Good morning, Emma. He handed me a thick envelope. Here is your copy of the last will and testament of your mother, Eleanor Harris. I opened it with trembling fingers and pulled out the document. My eyes skimmed the first page, the standard declarations, signatures, witnesses. Then I turned the page, and there it was. Article 4, Section 2, your inheritance. But the beneficiary listed was not my name. It was Sarah's name, my friend's name. My breath caught. I looked up at Vanessa, who stared back, her eyes wide. Not with triumph, real surprise. That's not possible, she stammered. It's my name here. You can't see Sarah's. I shook the paper into her view. Read it yourself. Vanessa snatched it and read aloud, voice shaky. I bequeath all personal property, real estate holdings, financial assets, and sentimental items held by Eleanor Harris to Eleanor's daughter, Sarah Whitmore, to honor the niece who stood by her in her final years. She looked up at me, her face draining of color. No, this is a mistake. I closed the will, my hands steady now, my heart pounding with vindication. No mistake. Mom made a change 3 months ago, saw how much Sarah cared for her when I was busy with my job, and decided that Sarah deserved it. Mr. Caldwell spoke gently. Eleanor Harris executed this amendment on April 2nd, witnessed by 2 parties and filed according to state law. Vanessa's voice cracked. But I'm her daughter. I was there for her too. I stood and met her gaze. Maybe not in the ways she needed. Sarah visited her every week, helped her with groceries, phone calls, doctor's appointments. I saw you in the funeral pictures, Vanessa, but I didn't see you in her living room. Tears sprang to Vanessa's eyes, but I didn't soften. This is Mom's choice. She wanted someone who treated her like family, not just by blood, but by actions. Vanessa sank back in her chair. I can't believe this. I folded the will and slipped it into my bag. Believe it? I'll handle the details with the lawyers. This isn't over. Mom's wishes are final. And with that, I walked out of the house, leaving Vanessa and her shattered expectations behind. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of legal consultations, phone calls, and media whispers. Our mother's estate was sizable, the family home, a guest house we had once joked about turning into a bed and breakfast, a lakeside cottage, investments that Mom had carefully managed for decades. And now, every last penny, every property, was legally mine to pass to Sarah. People whispered about the dramatic will, called it a soap opera. But to me, it was Mom's final act of justice. She knew I loved her. She knew I wanted to be there for her. But life had pulled me away. Career, city, responsibilities. In her last months, she found a new daughter in Sarah, who had moved back to care for her after her divorce. Sarah had stepped in when I could not, and Mom rewarded her loyalty. I met Sarah at our mother's favorite cafe, the one with mismatched teacups and scones still made from Mom's recipe. She sat at our usual table by the window, her eyes red, from crying, but there was a quiet light of hope there too. "They did it," she said softly when I arrived. I sat down and slid the will across to her. "Mom did it." Sarah picked up the paper, tracing the lines of print with a trembling finger. "I can't believe it." She looked up at me. "She chose me." I reached across and took her hand. "She chose you because you chose her." We sat there for a long time, drinking warm Earl Grey, thinking about Mom. The weight in my chest eased a little. For the first time since her funeral, I felt at peace. But there was still Vanessa to consider. Despite everything, she was my sister, and grief can warp love into resentment. I knew I had to handle that carefully. So I called her and asked her to meet me at the house on the lake, the place Mom loved most. Vanessa arrived in a cloud of perfume and regret. I could see the defeat in her posture, but also the grief that lay beneath it. We stood on the veranda, the late summer air soft and golden, the water shimmering. "I'm sorry," Vanessa said, voice small. "I was wrong. I miss her so much. And I always thought I was enough." I took a deep breath. She's in a better place now, but she made her choice. Sarah was there for her every day. I wasn't. Vanessa's eyes filled with tears. "I know. I'm sorry, Emma. I hate that I'm saying this now, but I've never been so lonely." I stepped closer and put an arm around her shoulders. "I know, Vanessa. I'm sorry, too. I got so caught up in my life I forgot what mattered." She rested, her head on my shoulder. Can we be sisters again?" I nodded, feeling the warm breeze stir the hair on my arms. "We already are." Over the next few weeks, Vanessa and I reconnected. We sorted through Mom's belongings together. Her jewelry box with the tarnished locket, Mom's handwritten recipe cards, the old photo albums. We laughed at embarrassing childhood memories and cried over the letters she wrote to us when we were away at college. And then the day came when I had to finalize the estate distribution. We sat in Mr. Caldwell's office, Vanessa beside me, Sarah across the table, and the lawyer guiding us through paperwork. The numbers, percentages, legal clauses, all of it solid. Everything that was Mom's was Sarah's now, but 5% of the estate, an agreed-upon gesture, was set aside for Vanessa to buy her a new beginning. It wasn't much in the grand scheme, but it was tangible. Vanessa looked at me, tears shining. "Thank you." I reached across and squeezed her hand. "This is what Mom wanted, and it's what you need." Sarah added, "Your family, Vanessa. We're in this together." We signed the documents, and Mom's legacy was settled. The family home would one day become a retreat for families in need of healing, Mom's final gift to the world. The lakeside cottage went to Sarah, and the guest house became Vanessa's new bed and breakfast, just as she always dreamed, now funded by the small inheritance she received. That evening, Vanessa, Sarah, and I gathered at the lake house. The sun dipped low, painting the sky in pink and gold. We sat on the dock, legs dangling over the water. The air smelled of pine and late summer blossoms. Vanessa looked at the horizon. Mom would have loved this. Her voice was soft but sure. She'd be so proud. I smiled, thinking of her laugh, the way she clapped her hands when she was delighted. She is proud, and so am I. Sarah leaned back and closed her eyes, the breeze ruffling her hair. "To Mom," she whispered. "To Mom," we echoed, our voices carrying across the still water. In that moment, everything felt right. The betrayal, the heartbreak, and the twists of fate had led us here, to a place of forgiveness, unity, and new beginnings. Mom's final act was more than just a change in a will. It was a reminder that love is defined by our actions, and that family is who shows up when it matters most. And as the stars began to appear overhead, I realized that Mom's story didn't end with her passing. It continued in us, in our memories, in our love, and in the way we honored her by caring for each other. Because that was her greatest legacy, teaching us that when we stand together, we can weather any storm, and that the truest inheritance is the bond we share,